7554 is a really weird game. It's probably something you've never heard of, considering the fact it's a Vietnamese first-person shooter developed by, uh, Amobi Games. There isn't much on the game that is easily accessible, so I decided to make this video and concisely present what I was able to find, and review the game itself. Thanks to an IGDB user named Ray1000, who actually is Vietnamese, I was able to get some good background info on the title. This game was a massive deal in Vietnam. When it was announced, the local gaming community was really excited because they were getting their first original IP for their country, instead of some knockoff of a Western title. When the game came out, it was priced at $12. Yep, $12. Apparently, internet piracy is a huge problem in Vietnam. They didn't have any sort of comprehensive intellectual property law until 2005, and even today, the enforcement system for copyright law is extremely insufficient. So, piracy pretty much runs wild in the country. Emobi hoped that the low price point would convince gamers to buy the game and support them. This approach didn't help. Most of the game's reviews were mediocre or just plain bad, and Amobi only made $50,000 against a budget of $750,000. Though the game was pretty much a financial disaster, it surprisingly didn't kill the studio. Amobi went on to develop the MMO 2112 and a few other titles before renaming themselves Hiker Games in 2015. Hiker has since found a good deal of success and is now the most prolific game studio in Vietnam. Like I said before, many of this game's reviews are mediocre to bad, but some say it's actually pretty decent and fun. So what's the game like? Let's find out. I like playing obscure first-person shooters, so I've been extremely curious about this game for a couple years now, but I couldn't find a copy for sale anywhere for a reasonable price. I recently saw the game listed on Amazon, so I decided to buy this copy from the UK for like $5. Yeah, this game somehow got a release in Great Britain. I guess Amobi got Play Indie to publish it overseas. I can't get over the subtitle. Glorious Memories Revived. It's like Amobi just went with the most communist-sounding phrase they could think of and slapped down the cover. This made me wonder if the game was a propaganda vehicle or something, but upon further research, it looks like Amobi just wanted to make a game for entertainment's sake. Also, check out the quote below it. The Escapists wrote an article saying that the game was essentially Vietnam's local equivalent of Call of Duty, and they literally put it on the box. Most of the time, you'll see review scores or quotes from awestruck reviewers on the box, but no, you just get the informational quote from the Escapist. Let's check out the back. War is hell. Huh. I never thought I would see William Sherman quoted on the back of a Vietnamese video game. I'm surprised they even know he existed. He's an American Civil War general. Maybe they just heard it in an American movie or something and thought it sounded cool. We also have a summary of the game in proper English. Well, except for the first sentence. It sounds a little bit rough. Enough gawking at the case. Let's play. First thing I noticed when I boot up the game is everything's in German. This was a brand new, unopened British copy, and the default language was German. After furiously clicking through the menus trying to figure out what the hell everything was, I finally found the language option and set it to English. Afterwards, I started the game. Once you hit New Game, a surprisingly high-quality cinematic plays and gives you some historical background on the war. I was really impressed with how good this looked. It reminded me of the pre-mission cinematics in Call of Duty World at War. After the cutscene ended, the game started immediately. No tutorial, no nothing. It just throws you in the middle of a huge battle right out of the gate. After a few seconds, controls start flashing across the screen. It feels like the developers remembered just before the game went gold that they forgot to tell you how to play, so they just typed up what the controls were and plastered them on the screen. The game uses the Vision graphics engine developed by Trinergy, which was discontinued when Havoc bought Trinergy shortly before the game came out. Visually, the game looks fine as far as 2011 goes, but it's really nothing special. I will say the French soldiers look really weird and the African colonials look just racist. I know white people and black people aren't exactly abundant in Vietnam, but come on. There are pictures you can look up. You can do better than this. I'm not going to say a whole lot about the story because there really isn't one. I mean, there kind of is. Like the box said, the game takes place during the First Indochina War. Hell, even the name 7554 is derived from the date the Viet Minh beat the French at Dien Bien Phu and won the war. The game revolves around this one squad of Viet Minh soldiers, so I guess it's kind of like a Vietnamese brothers in arms. And you as the player switch perspectives throughout the campaign. But then it gets weird. The guy you play as the most is revealed to have a son back home who he misses and wants to go back to, obviously. And then he dies. And then it's revealed that his son is also fighting in the war, but the first guy didn't know. But then it's revealed that the first guy is actually not dead, and it doesn't explain that, by the way. It very clearly shows him dying, and then later on the game's just like, oh yeah, by the way, he's not dead. So then he meets his son in the last mission, and when he asks him why he's fighting and not home with his mother, his son tells him that a French airstrike killed his mother and he signed up with the Vietnamese to get revenge. And then, get this, then the son dies, and the game ends. That's literally how the game ends. Oh, and there's no English audio. You have to spend the entire game listening to people scream in Vietnamese with really poorly translated English subtitles.
Phải đi luôn đấy chứ. Xung kích! Theo tôi quay lại hỗ trợ các đơn vị ở phía sau.
Đi thôi anh em. Em sẽ trả thù cho anh. Sẽ tìm được An.
Cần tìm chỗ gần hỏa lực chú ý của địch như Đại Liên hay chỗ nó xuống suối lấy nước, mà chỉ bắn một phát rồi di chuyển ngay nên phải ngắm thật chính xác.
Cái khoảng cách bao xa thì bắn hả anh?
Thì cậu bắn được từ càng xa càng tốt.
Với khẩu súng trường này, ngoài 200 mét thì em không chắc chắn đâu. Trời lại tối như thế này.
Hôm nay lặng gió 300-400 mét, bắn làm sao mà trượt được. Chỉ tiếc là không có khẩu súng ngắm thôi.
Sometimes it's so bad, you pretty much have to guess what your objectives are. I can't say too much on the quality of the voice acting. Since I don't speak Vietnamese, I can't say if it's good or not. I will say the French soldiers sound a little off, like they're speaking with an accent I haven't heard before. Going back to the pre-mission cinematics. Like I said, they look great, but there's one minor problem with them that doesn't become apparent until after the first mission.
Sau 5 năm chiến tranh, quân Pháp tại Đông Dương càng ngày càng xa.
They have the loudest fucking narrator I've ever heard in my life. This guy scared the shit out of me the first time I heard him. I have no idea why the developers thought this was acceptable.
Thiết lập quan hệ ngoại giao với chế độ Việt Nam Dân Chủ Cộng Hòa. Ngày 18 tháng 1 năm 1950.
Why is there so much gain in his voiceovers? It's like they were mixed by somebody with tinnitus. They're all like this, by the way, through the entire game. I ended up having to cover my ears whenever I beat a mission. The audio wasn't all bad, though. The game has a surprisingly good soundtrack. Some of the music is the typical heroic war movie type stuff you would hear in Call of Duty. Some of it is ominous and dark.
Đội lệnh bắn. Bắn! Giết chúng nó!
And some of the tracks even delve into hard rock and symphonic metal, which I didn't expect at all.
Địch lên dẫn đông ở hướng A2, các đồng chí, theo tôi!
Overall, the soundtrack is varied and pretty enjoyable. I was pleasantly taken aback by it. First, I'm going to go over the weapons in the game. More specifically, the overall performance and feel, which are all over the place. Bolt action rifles, I would say, feel fine and are accurate. Not really much to say there. The 1928 Thompson, on the other hand, feels weird. It has a stupid amount of spread and the recoil is almost non-existent, so your bullets go over the place, but there isn't any real blowback. I had problems using this thing at medium range all the time. The Thompson M1A1 doesn't have the spray problem, but it still has the minimal recoil, which makes it feel super strange to use. Other SMGs like the MP40 and MAP49 have less spread and are more accurate, while LMGs like the BAR and the ZBVZ26 are much better. Not much to say about the pistols. They're just little pea shooters that don't do much. Except for the revolver. That one actually packs a punch. The hit detection is not good. On top of that, the enemies are super tanky and fire on you with pinpoint accuracy. You'll be saying to yourself, how the fuck is he not dead more times than you can count? Sometimes your iron sights will be pointed smack dab in the middle of someone's face and you'll miss. It also doesn't help that the game's max ammo count is pretty low and finding ammo isn't easy, ensuring that you'll run out of ammo at the absolute worst times. The movement in the game is pretty sluggish. It feels like your character is fighting while wearing ankle weights and giving someone else a piggyback ride. I'm sure you can imagine how hard it is to maneuver around the battlefield when your character moves like he's underwater. The game also has an issue with off-limits areas and invisible walls. They're fucking everywhere. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to flank enemies and bumped into an invisible wall. There was even one level where you had to stay within a small linear area or you would get a warning message saying you would fail if you didn't go back. This is not good game design. Thinking outside the box shouldn't result in you running into a literal wall or being threatened with failure. All of these issues are perfectly encapsulated by this one clip. I was out of ammo, being shot at by like 5 guys trying to take cover behind some crates. Emphasis on trying to, because these fucking wizards were somehow hitting me constantly through tall grass and a pile of crates. There was no ammo around, so I really didn't have many options. I took out my knife and tried to run towards them, but I got the warning that I was out of bounds and about to go into the danger zone and had to go back. Luckily, I found another gun nearby and was able to fight back, juggling the actions of looking for enemies in the grass, staying out of the danger zone, and taking cover when the grass-blind French hit me too much. Eventually, I ran out of ammo again, with one guy left. This time, I went full bonsai and charged with my knife, trying to stab the guy and get out of there just before the danger zone would have killed me. I managed to get in there and attempt to stab 2 more times and he still didn't die. After trying numerous times to do it a 3rd time, I found the MAP-49 just lying around. I picked it up and managed to kill the last French soldier with just the ammo that was in the gun. That whole sequence took me 5 minutes to complete. I also want to touch on the beginnings of some missions. The second mission starts with you and your unit just chilling and talking about your families. A guy comes by and says that there's going to be an artillery strike in 5 minutes that will end with the unit attacking. At least, I think that's what he's saying. Who knows with these subtitles? Despite what the runner just said, the artillery strike starts immediately, and then, right afterwards, you're ordered to charge into the enemy positions that are right next to you. I was already confused, but to make things worse, at this point, I realized I had no guns. The first objective of the mission was to pick up your guns, and I had no idea where they were. Turns out, they were behind me. There is so much wrong with this opening, I don't think I can even talk about it all. Why is the unit just hanging out when there are enemy soldiers like 10 feet away from them? Why did the runner say the artillery would start in 5 minutes when it started immediately? Why did I spawn without my guns? Why were my guns behind me where I couldn't see them? Why would you make a game where you had to pick up your guns at the start of a mission? This isn't the only time this happens. There's a lot of really strange things that happen in this game. Probably there because of the low budget. This guy literally walks up to a tank and blows it up, yet he's perfectly fine a couple seconds later. This guy randomly teleports in front of me for no apparent reason. Then there's this really strange sequence in the last mission where French soldiers surrender. You convince one guy to take you to a tunnel where a French general is holed up, and he takes you there while you're being shot at by other French troops. He takes you into a trench along the way and then basically says to some guys, hey, the Vietmen have us surrounded, so we should surrender. 2 guys come out with their hands up while there are still other French troops shooting at you. Then, you leave the guys who just surrendered unattended while there are clearly other French soldiers a couple feet away from them. Nothing about it makes any sense. Oh, and there's also this gem.
Mày! Tao đã bảo mày phải ở nhà! Tao đi ngủ rồi!
For some reason, this part is just so damn funny to me. I think it's a combination of the poor execution and the absurdity of a man slapping his son in the middle of a battlefield. I mean, the slap sound effect isn't even synced properly.
Mày! 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 Mày!
And it gets better. If you go frame by frame, your character's hand passes through the kid's head. It's like something you would see at Everybody Hates Chris. I can just imagine when the war started, the father just said to his son, An, if you ever join the Vietmen, I'm gonna slap you so hard your head and my hand are gonna be in different dimensions. Though the game doesn't have any multiplayer, it does have a wave survival mode. It's pretty much what you'd think it would be, just you holding off endless waves of enemy soldiers until you die. It's very similar to the survival mode from Modern Warfare 3. You earn money by killing people, in between rounds you buy more guns, rinse, repeat, die. Essentially what happens is as the waves go on, the enemies get better weapons and they also get tankier over time. There's also only 4 survival maps. The first 2 are normal survival, and the second 2 are zombie survival. No Call of Duty clone would be complete without a zombie mode. So essentially, the remnants of the old Republic of China were somehow able to control zombies. They summoned Manchu zombies who were buried on the Chinese-Vietnamese border to cause instability in the region. As it turns out, some of the places where the Manchu zombies were buried were in Vietnamese bases, so now the Vietmen have to fight the zombies. I also love how at the end of the exposition dump, Emobi are just like, oh, this is fictional by the way, this didn't happen. What? You mean to tell me that the Vietmen didn't fight ancient Manchu zombies on the Vietnamese-Chinese border? What's next? Are you gonna tell me that Chewbacca didn't fight Nazis while riding a giant squirrel in World War II? All jokes aside, the mode basically plays as you'd expect. It does have a couple of unique features that set it apart from the Call of Duty zombies though. For one thing, there's the day-night cycle. When a round starts, it goes dark. After you survive a round, the sun comes up, kills any of the zombies who are left, and stays up to let you know that it's between rounds. Also, instead of spawning on the far end of the map and walking towards you, the zombies come up from the ground, like that map Verrückt from World at War, except they come up all around you. There's also different kinds of zombies who behave differently. Normal zombies are slow and wear civilian garb. And then there's these weird, well-dressed hopping zombies who I assume are gangshi. For those of you who don't know, gangshi or kongthi in Vietnamese are these zombie vampires from Chinese folklore who spread to all of Asia. They're called something different in every country, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna call them gangshi. And then there's these armored warrior zombies who have a sword. Do not get close to these guys, they will fuck you up. Overall, the wave survival mode is nothing to write home about, but the zombie mode in this game is interesting and somewhat unique. So, how does the game stack up overall? Honestly, it's not bad. Is it a masterpiece? Hell no. Is it the worst thing ever? No, it's not. It's just an okay first person shooter. If the mechanics were a little bit more refined, I think it could be a pretty solid game. Though the game does have its share of aggravating faults, like the invisible walls and the bad hit detection, a lot of the game's problems are just funny. And because of that, the game remains somewhat enjoyable despite its various issues. I also think it's the context that matters the most. 7554 was the first of its kind in Vietnam, and had like no budget. So even though I've been making fun of this game nonstop for the past 20 minutes, I think of Moby, or Piker now, should be damn proud of what they made and the doors they opened up for future developers in their country.
Mày! Tao đã bảo mày phải ở nhà! Tao đi ngủ rồi!